The first time Michael Harper spotted a stranger doing backstrokes in his pool, he assumed it was a neighborhood kid who had hopped the fence. It wouldn't have been the first time. His immaculately maintained in-ground pool was legendary on Maple Street. What he didn't expect was a 40-something woman in a floral swim cap methodically counting laps while a clipboard rested on one of his custom tea loungers. "Excuse me." Michael called from his back porch, coffee mug suspended halfway to his lips. The morning sun glinted off the water, momentarily blinding him. "Can I help you?" The woman completed her lap before acknowledging him, pushing her swim cap back to reveal bottle blonde hair and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, you must be the homeowner. I'm Karen Wakefield from 3 doors down." She treaded water effortlessly, making no move to exit his pool. "I hope you don't mind." Denise said it would be fine. Michael frowned. Denise, his ex-wife, had moved out 4 months ago, taking half their savings and leaving him with a mortgage on a house too big for one person. She certainly had no authority to grant pool access to anyone. "I'm sorry, but Denise doesn't live here anymore," he said, setting down his mug and walking toward the pool deck. "And I don't recall giving anyone permission to use my pool." Karen's smile tightened. "Well, this is awkward, but since I'm already here, would it be terrible if I finished my routine? I'm training for the Regional Masters swim meet next month." Something about her presumptuous tone made Michael's jaw clench, but years of customer service work had trained him to avoid confrontation. Just today, he conceded reluctantly. "But in the future." "Wonderful." Karen cut him off, slipping her goggles back on. "I'll be done in 45 minutes, give or take." Michael stood there, dumbfounded, as Karen resumed her laps. He had planned to spend his rare Saturday off relaxing by his pool, the one luxury he had insisted on keeping in the divorce settlement. Now he retreated inside, wondering how he'd been so efficiently outmaneuvered. Monday morning, Michael left early for his shift at Hargrove Technology Solutions. By the time he returned home at 6:30 p.m., exhausted from a day of troubleshooting network issues, he'd forgotten all about the pool incident, until he walked through his gate and found not just Karen, but 6 middle-aged women in matching swim caps lined up beside his pool. "Ladies, remember your breathing technique," Karen was saying, demonstrating a stroke on the pool deck. "Inhale every 3rd stroke." Then she spotted Michael frozen in the gateway. "Oh, there he is. Everyone, this is Mike, our generous host." "Michael," he corrected automatically, stunned by the scene before him. His outdoor furniture had been rearranged. Someone had plugged in a portable speaker that was playing upbeat workout music. A whiteboard with swim diagrams stood propped against his prized hydrangea bushes. "What's happening here?" he asked, his voice nearly drowned out by a chorus of thank yous from the swim-capped women. Karen waded over to the pool's edge. "Monday evening lessons. Didn't you get my text? I must have the wrong number." She didn't sound particularly concerned. "We formed the Lakeview Estates Masters Swimming Club, and your pool has the perfect dimensions for training." "I never agreed to this," Michael said, feeling heat rise to his face. "You can't just. We're already set up," Karen interjected smoothly. "And everyone's paid for the lesson. You wouldn't want to disappoint them, would you?" Her eyes narrowed slightly, challenging him. 6 expectant faces turned toward Michael. One woman clutched a kickboard to her chest like a shield. "Fine," he muttered, knowing he'd hate himself later for capitulating. "Just this once." Karen's smile was triumphant. "Perfect. We'll be done by 8. Ladies, into the water. Show Mike what you've learned so far." "Michael," he corrected again, but nobody was listening. He trudged inside, slamming the door harder than necessary, wondering how his private sanctuary had been commandeered so easily and what he was going to do about it. By Thursday afternoon, Michael no longer recognized his own backyard. What had once been his personal oasis now resembled a community recreation center. Karen had installed a portable equipment rack filled with kickboards, pull buoys, and resistance bands. A laminated schedule was pinned to his fence. Monday, ladies' masters training. Tuesday, water aerobics for seniors. Wednesday, private coaching. Thursday, advanced technique. Friday, competitive prep. Michael discovered this transformation when he arrived home early, hoping to finally enjoy a quiet swim after a mercifully short workday. Instead, he found Karen instructing a rail-thin teenager in butterfly technique. "Higher elbows, Jasmine. Remember what we discussed about dolphin kicks," Karen shouted before noticing Michael standing at the gate. "Oh, Michael, perfect timing. Could you grab the tempo trainer from my bag? It's the blue device." "Karen, we need to talk," Michael said, ignoring her request. The muscles in his jaw twitched as he struggled to maintain composure. "This has gone too far." Karen's smile didn't waver as she dismissed her student. "Take 5, Jasmine. Hydration break." The girl climbed out of the pool and grabbed a monogrammed water bottle. From Michael's outdoor refrigerator, he noted with dismay. I understand your frustration, Karen said, lowering her voice and guiding Michael away from her student. But I've actually been meaning to discuss a business proposition with you. Business proposition? Michael repeated incredulously. I'm establishing the Lakeview Aquatics Academy, Karen explained, her voice taking on the practice cadence of a sales pitch. Your pool is perfect for our needs, and I'm prepared to compensate you. She reached for her tote bag and pulled out a folder containing a meticulously prepared contract. $300 per month for unlimited access. That's quite generous considering residential pool rentals typically run much higher. Michael stared at the document, noting the Lakeview Aquatics Academy logo already professionally designed at the top. You've been charging people to use my pool, haven't you? Karen's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. I'm offering specialized coaching services. The venue is incidental. The venue is my property, Michael countered, his voice rising. And $300 doesn't even cover the increase in my utility bills, let alone the wear and tear on the equipment. Well, what would you consider fair? Karen asked, as though they were negotiating the price of a used lawnmower rather than the commandeering of his property. Michael took a deep breath. Nothing. Because this isn't happening anymore. I want my pool back. Today, now. Karen's friendly demeanor evaporated like chlorine in the sun. We have an arrangement. No, we don't. You took advantage of me being caught off guard. I never agreed to any of this. I have 12 clients who paid in advance for the month, Karen said, her voice hardening. Several are prominent community members. Candace Miller, your neighbor across the street. Her husband sits on the homeowners association board. The implied threat wasn't subtle. Michael had battled the HOA before over the height of his fence and lost spectacularly. I have commitments, Karen continued. Canceling now would be unprofessional. It would reflect poorly on both of us. Both of us? Michael asked incredulously. We're business partners now, Michael. That's how the community sees it. Before Michael could respond, Karen's next client arrived, a heavy-set man in his 60s wearing designer swim trunks. Dr. Willis, right on time. Michael was just helping me set up for your session. Dr. Willis smiled benevolently at Michael. Wonderful facilities you have here, young man. Karen speaks very highly of your generosity. Trapped by social niceties and Karen's manipulations, Michael retreated once again. But as he walked back to his house, listening to Karen outline the day's training regimen, something inside him hardened. This wasn't just about his pool anymore. It was about standing up for himself. That evening, after Karen and her clients had finally departed, Michael sat on his porch staring at the pool. The water reflected the sunset in shimmering oranges and pinks, a beauty he hadn't been able to enjoy for nearly a week. On his phone, calendar notifications from Karen now populated his schedule. Pool maintenance, 6 a.m., equipment delivery, 4 p.m. Weekend intensive workshop, all day Saturday. She'd even added herself as a contact in his phone while he wasn't looking. Michael deleted the notifications one by one, then pulled up his contacts and hovered his finger over Karen's name. But instead of deleting it, he saved it. He might need it for what he was planning. Inside, he opened his laptop and began researching local municipal codes regarding home-based businesses, pool safety regulations, and most significantly, swimming pool temperature maintenance for competitive training. A plan was forming. If Karen wanted to run a swimming academy, she should probably understand all the technical requirements involved. Michael, with his background in systems engineering, was going to give her quite an education. Let's see how you like swimming in my rules for a change, he muttered as he reached for his phone and dialed an old college friend who now worked in industrial refrigeration. You want to do what? Ryan Matthews stared at Michael across the plastic table of the local diner. His college roommate had barely changed since their engineering days, same skeptical expression, same habit of tapping his fork against his coffee mug when processing information. Lower the temperature of my pool. Significantly, Michael repeated, leaning forward. Just for one night. Ryan whistled low. We're talking about a pretty sophisticated operation here. Residential pools aren't designed for rapid temperature drops. But it's possible, Michael pressed. Technically, yes, Ryan scratched his beard thoughtfully. I've got access to industrial cooling equipment through my company. We use it for temporary refrigeration at outdoor events, food storage, that kind of thing. Ryan worked for Cooltech Solutions, which specialized in commercial refrigeration. Michael had remembered this fact at 2 in the morning while plotting his revenge. The question is why? Ryan continued. This seems excessive for a neighborhood dispute. Michael recounted the events of the past week, including Karen's latest move, sending him a text that morning informing him she'd be hosting a small fundraising gala poolside on Sunday to showcase the Academy's facilities to potential investors. She didn't even ask, Michael concluded, the frustration evident in his voice. Just told me to make sure the pool was clean because the mayor's wife might attend. Ryan shook his head in disbelief, and you've tried just saying no. Multiple times. She steamrolls right over me, makes me feel like I'm being unreasonable. Even implied she'd get the HOA involved if I didn't cooperate. Classic manipulation tactics, Ryan observed. So your plan is what? Freeze her out? Literally. Michael nodded, a hint of mischief appearing in his eyes for the first time in days. I don't want to damage anything. Just create a temporary obstacle. Ryan considered for a moment, then pulled out his phone and brought up a calendar. I've got 2 industrial chillers coming back from a job Saturday afternoon. They're not scheduled for redeployment until Tuesday. He looked up at Michael with a gleam in his eye that hadn't been there since their infamous dormitory air conditioning hack of 2007. If someone were to borrow them Saturday night, theoretically speaking, they could cool a standard residential pool by about 15 degrees in 8 hours. And if the starting temperature was already on the cooler side, Michael asked, then you'd get even more dramatic results. Ryan grinned. But remember, we're just speaking hypothetically, since I would never loan out company equipment for personal vendettas. Of course not, Michael agreed solemnly. Completely hypothetical. That afternoon, Michael called the local pool supply store and ordered a complete water testing kit, chlorine stabilizer, and a thermal pool cover, all items that a responsible pool owner might need. While placing the order, he casually inquired about pool temperature regulation. Interesting you should ask, said the salesperson. Most people this time of year are looking to keep their pools warmer, not cooler. Just exploring my options, Michael replied casually. How low can residential pools safely go before risking damage to the system? The answer, minus 55 degrees Fahrenheit, was well within his planned parameters. Next, Michael drafted an official-looking notice on his computer. After several revisions, he settled on wording that sounded appropriately bureaucratic. Notice of CCEGLED pool maintenance and TMPORA facility, CLOs you are in compliance with Municipal Code 37.5b regarding private aquatic facilities used for commercial instruction. This pool will undergo mandatory maintenance and water quality testing beginning Saturday evening. Facility will reopen upon completion of required procedures. He added the logo of the county health department, which he found online, and printed several copies on high-quality paper. It wasn't technically forgery if he didn't include any signatures, he reasoned. While preparing for bed that night, Michael received another text from Karen. Order new lane dividers for the pool. They'll be delivered tomorrow afternoon. Please be available to accept them if I'm teaching. Invoice to follow for your portion. His portion, as if they had agreed to share expenses. Michael didn't reply, but he did turn down his home thermostat a few degrees, testing his tolerance for cooler temperatures. He would need to be comfortable with the cold for his plan to work. Saturday morning arrived with perfect weather conditions for Michael's scheme. Overcast skies and a forecast, high of only 68 degrees. Perfect for keeping the pool water from absorbing too much ambient heat. At precisely 7 o'clock a.m., Karen arrived with her first client of the day. Michael greeted them at the gate, coffee in hand, wearing a friendly smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Morning, Karen. Big day today. Karen looked momentarily suspicious at his cheerfulness but recovered quickly. Full schedule. We've got the junior competitive squad this morning, private lessons all afternoon, and I need to prep for tomorrow's gala. Sounds busy, Michael nodded sympathetically. Just wanted to let you know, I've scheduled some routine maintenance for tonight. Nothing that should interfere with your plans. Maintenance? Karen's eyes narrowed. What kind of maintenance? Just standard stuff, Michael shrugged. Chemical balancing, filtration system check. The usual. Well, make sure it's done by tomorrow afternoon, Karen instructed, already distracted by her client's questions about proper swim cap fitting. Oh, it'll definitely be done by tomorrow, Michael assured her, turning to hide his smile as he walked back to the house. As Karen's clients came and went throughout the day, Michael methodically turned down the pool heater, degree by degree. No one would notice such a gradual change, especially with their exertion keeping them warm. By late afternoon, the pool was already 5 degrees cooler than normal. At 6:30 p.m., Karen's final client departed. She was packing up her equipment when Ryan's unmarked van pulled into Michael's driveway. Who's that? Karen asked, squinting at the vehicle. Maintenance crew, Michael said smoothly, walking over to meet Ryan. Right on schedule. Ryan emerged from the van wearing a generic work uniform and carrying a clipboard. Evening, sir. We're here for the scheduled service. Perfect timing, Michael replied loudly enough for Karen to hear. I was just explaining to my associate here about the necessary maintenance procedures. Karen approached, hand extended. Karen Wickfield, Lakeview Aquatics Academy. I should be informed about any work being done on our training facility. Ryan consulted his clipboard with impressive professionalism. Ma'am, I'm just following the work order. System calibration and water quality testing. He looked up. Are you the property owner? Well, no, but the night air grew crisp as Michael and Ryan worked methodically under the glow of outdoor security lights. The industrial chillers hummed with purpose, connected to Michael's pool system through a network of insulated hoses and custom adapters. Every 30 minutes, Michael checked the water temperature, watching with satisfaction as the digital thermometer displayed steadily dropping numbers. 68 degrees Fahrenheit, 63 degrees Fahrenheit, 58 degrees Fahrenheit. The surface will start to crystallize around 32 degrees, Ryan explained, adjusting the flow rate on the primary unit. But we don't need the whole pool to freeze solid, just enough to make a statement. And it won't damage the liner or the filtration system. Michael confirmed for the third time. Ryan shook his head. Not if we keep it above 28 degrees and don't run the pool pump while it's partially frozen. I've bypassed the standard temperature fail-safes, but we'll shut everything down before it gets dangerous. By midnight, a thin layer of ice had begun forming around the edges of the pool, creating a delicate crystalline border that refracted the security lights. The water temperature hovered at 36 degrees Fahrenheit and continued to drop. Michael couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction at the sight. Better than I expected, Ryan admitted, writing down measurements in a small notebook. The thermal cover is helping retain the cold. As long as the ambient temperature stays below 50 tonight, we should achieve our target by morning. At 2 o'clock a.m., with the pool temperature registering 31 degrees Fahrenheit and the surface now covered with a substantial layer of ice nearly an inch thick, they shut down the chillers and removed the equipment. Ryan carefully disconnected the hoses while Michael restored the pool's normal operational settings, minus the heater, which would remain off. Remember, Ryan cautioned as he packed up, this is temporary. Once the sun hits it tomorrow, they'll start to melt. Probably be completely thawed by afternoon unless you keep it covered. That's fine, Michael replied. I don't need it frozen forever, just long enough. After Ryan departed, Michael stood alone in his backyard, admiring their handiwork. The pool gleamed like a massive ice sculpture, beautiful and otherworldly in the moonlight. He snapped several photos with his phone, then carefully arranged the thermal cover to conceal his work. The cover would slow the melting process and, more importantly, hide the surprise until the perfect moment. Before heading to bed, Michael placed the final touches on his plan. He printed out copies of local regulations regarding commercial use of residential properties and water safety standards for public swimming facilities. He laid out his warmest jacket and boots for the morning. And finally, he set his alarm for 6 o'clock a.m., an hour before Karen's expected arrival. Sleep came easier than it had all week. When Michael's alarm chirped the next morning, he awoke feeling refreshed and oddly calm. He dressed quickly and made coffee, carrying his mug outside to inspect his frozen creation in the early morning light. Pulling back a corner of the thermal cover revealed a pool that was now approximately 70% frozen. The ice looked solid enough to walk on in the middle, though Michael wasn't about to test that theory. He replaced the cover and waited. At precisely 7:03 a.m., Karen's SUV pulled into his driveway. She emerged wearing a navy blazer with Lakeview Aquatics Academy embroidered on the breast pocket, a new addition since yesterday. She carried a stack of glossy brochures and a large tote bag overflowing with decorations. Morning, she called cheerfully, either forgetting or ignoring their tension from the previous day. I brought poolside banners and some promotional materials for the gala, the mayor's wife confirmed by the way, and the editor of the community newsletter. Sounds impressive, Michael replied, sipping his coffee. Did you get my text about the maintenance? Karen waved dismissively. Yes. All done, I assume. But water quality better be perfect. Why don't you see for yourself? Michael suggested, gesturing toward the pool. I think you'll find the conditions crystal clear. Karen bustled past him, dropping her decorations on the patio table. I need to measure for the banner placement, then I'll check the water chemistry. The fix needs to be exactly. She stopped mid-sentence as Michael pulled back the thermal cover with a flourish, revealing the frozen pool in its full glory. The morning sun caught the ice surface, making it sparkle like diamond. For several seconds, Karen stood absolutely motionless, her mouth open in a perfect O of shock. When she finally spoke, her voice came out as a strangled whisper. What have you done? Michael took another calm sip of his coffee. Maintenance, like I mentioned. There were some temperature regulation issues that needed addressing. You froze my pool. Karen shrieked, finding her voice at full volume. Actually, it's my pool, Michael corrected mildly. And technically, it's only partially frozen. The deep end is probably still liquid about 2 feet down. Karen's face flushed an alarming shade of red as she stormed to the pool edge and tentatively pressed a manicured finger against the ice surface. It didn't yield. This is sabotage, she sputtered. Criminal damage? I have a JLA today. About that, Michael said, retrieving the municipal code printouts from a nearby table. I've been doing some research on the legalities of running a commercial swimming instruction business from a private residence. Fascinating reading. He handed her the papers, which she ignored as they fluttered to the ground. Unfreeze it. Now. Karen's voice had dropped to a dangerous growl. I'm afraid that's beyond my capabilities, Michael replied with exaggerated regret. Freezing is simple physics. Rapid unfreezing would require industrial heating equipment, which I don't have access to. Nature will have to take its course. By noon, Michael's frozen pool had become the talk of Lakeview Estates. Neighborhood children pressed their faces against his fence, marveling at the unlikely winter wonderland. Joggers slowed their pace as they passed his house. Someone had apparently started a neighborhood text chain because people Michael had never spoken to were finding reasons to stroll by his property. Is it true you turned your pool into an ice rink to spite Karen Wakefield? Asked Mrs. Abernethy, his 70-year-old neighbor, who appeared at his gate with her Yorkshire Terrier and an unconvincing expression of disapproval that couldn't quite hide her delight. Not exactly, Michael replied, offering her a glass of lemonade. It was more of a temperature calibration exercise. Mrs. Abernethy's eyes twinkled. Well, whatever you call it, it's about time someone stood up to that woman. Did you know she tried to have my rose bushes removed because she claimed they were interfering with the neighborhood aesthetic? This was news to Michael. She did. Oh yes. Got 3 neighbors to sign a petition and everything. Brought it to the HOA last spring. Thankfully, Richard Garcia is president now, not that awful man who was in charge when you moved in. As they chatted, Michael's phone buzzed with notifications. Karen's Swim Academy clients were texting him directly. Apparently, she had shared his contact information with them. Some messages expressed outrage, but surprisingly, most were sympathetic. From Dr. Willis. Sorry about the misunderstanding. Karen told us she was your business partner. Would have never imposed otherwise. From Jasmine's mom. Karen said you wanted the lessons at your house. My daughter is devastated about missing her training, but we understand your position completely. From Candace Miller, the HOA board member's wife. Just learned Karen was using your pool without proper permission. Inexcusable. Martin will be addressing this at the next meeting. By mid-afternoon, the thermal cover was fully removed and Michael's frozen pool had begun to thaw in the spring sunshine. He sat on his deck watching the transformation, feeling oddly at peace despite knowing he hadn't heard the last from Karen. His doorbell rang at precisely 3:15 p.m. Michael opened the front door to find a professionally dressed woman in her 60s with a notebook and a stern expression. Mr. Harper, I'm Patricia Reynolds from the mayor's office. Michael's stomach dropped. If this is about Karen Wakefield's event, I can explain. May I come in? She interrupted, already stepping past him into the foyer. I understand you've had some pool maintenance issues today. You could say that, Michael replied cautiously, leading her through to the back patio where the partially thawed pool gleamed in the afternoon sun. Patricia surveyed the scene, making notes in her small leather-bound notebook. Mrs. Wakefield contacted our office this morning in quite a state. She seemed to think the mayor's wife should intervene on her behalf regarding a business dispute. It wasn't exactly a business. Patricia held up a hand. Mr. Harper, I've worked for 3 different mayors over 22 years. Very little surprises me anymore. She gestured toward the pool, though I must admit this situation is novel. Michael waited, unsure what to say. Mrs. Wakefield has been rather insistent about getting access to your property for her event today, Patricia continued. She seems to believe she has some sort of legal claim. She doesn't, Michael said firmly. She took advantage of my politeness and essentially commandeered my pool without permission. When I tried to reclaim it, she threatened me with the HOA and various prominent community members. To his surprise, Patricia's stern expression softened into something like amusement. Yes, that tracks with our previous encounters with Mrs. Wakefield. Did you know she once tried to have the public library renamed after herself in exchange for a $500 donation? Michael couldn't help but laugh. That seems on brand. Indeed. Patricia closed her notebook. The mayor's wife asked me to assess the situation. She was concerned about being dragged into a neighborhood dispute. And your assessment is that this is clearly a private property matter in which the mayor's office has no jurisdiction whatsoever. Patricia's eyes crinkled at the corners. Though off the record, she also mentioned that Mrs. Wakefield has been rather persistent about gaining social connections since moving to the area. This event was likely an attempt to further that agenda. Michael gestured toward his thawing pool. Well, as you can see, the event venue is currently indisposed. So it appears, Patricia agreed, allowing herself a small smile. I'll inform the mayor's wife that alternative arrangements have been made. And Mr. Harper? Yes. While I cannot officially comment on your creative problem-solving approach, I will say that sometimes a dramatic statement is the only way to deal with certain personalities. With that, she handed him her business card. Patricia Reynolds, Community Relations, and departed as efficiently as she had arrived. By evening, the pool had mostly thawed, though it remained far too cold for swimming. Michael ordered pizza and ate it on his patio, enjoying the tranquility of his reclaimed space. Ryan texted to check in. Any fallout from Operation Polar Plunge? Michael replied, surprisingly positive. Turns out I wasn't Karen's only victim. Neighborhood seems more amused than outraged. His phone rang at 7:48 p.m. The caller ID displayed Richard Garcia, HOA president. Michael answered with some trepidation. Michael, Richard here. Got a minute to discuss the Wickfield situation? Of course, Michael replied, bracing himself. I'll be direct, Richard said. We've received multiple complaints about